in most endeavors in life, the harder you try, the better you're going to do. And investing is just not one of those. And it's so not intuitive that people end up tripping over themselves. I would also say too, that I am not against active investing in the slightest at all. I have so much respect and admiration for the people who do it well. And the stats that get thrown around that are true, that 90% or more of mutual funds will underperform the benchmark. My response to that is always like, of course, that's how it is. You should not expect to live in a world in which everyone who tries to beat the market can do it. Of course, that's how it is. And the people who can do it are enormously talented. And I have so much respect for them. Two of them are sitting behind our shoulders here. And other people, I know people, people who have been, and I think will continue to be successful at this. So I'm not a passive zealot in the slightest. I just think for myself and many other people, it's probably the smartest way to invest.
I think that's really hard to appreciate, that what's short-term optimal and what's long-term optimal are often two different things.
Completely different things. Howard Marks talked about this investor that he knew who, in any given year, he was never in the top half versus his peers. He was never in the top 50% of other investors. And over a 20-year period, he was in like the top 4%, because everyone else who was beating him in a given year couldn't keep it going. And so, like, what's your ultimate goal? So much of investing is just define the game that you're playing. And I don't look down upon or criticize people who are short-term traders. Maybe that's their game, and for their investors or for their, it makes sense for them. My game is different. I think your game is different. Most people's game might be a little bit different. And what's important is that if your game is to invest for the next 20, 30, 50 years, that you're not taking your cues from people who are playing a different game of trading for the next quarter. And that's where a lot of danger in investing comes from.
You've changed my capital allocation strategy. Our conversations,
that true?
Our walks, totally. Yeah.
How so? What did you used to do that you don't anymore?
We used to do a lot more private investments, and now it's mostly index funds. And as things sort of roll in through dividends or whatever, it just gets reinvested in index funds. But it's our conversations that change that.
Well, great. That makes me happy and nervous that I'm having influence. One thing that some people will say when you talk about index funds is like, what is the guarantee that this is going to work for the next 50 years? Okay, I understand it works in the past 50 years. And my response is always like, nothing. There's no guarantee that this is going to work. It's very possible that it doesn't work out for whatever reason. And there have been periods, from the late 1920s to the 1950s where the returns were terrible. Or even from 2000 to 2010, you had basically 0% real returns in index funds. So it's not perfect in the slightest. Nothing guarantees that it's going to work or be satisfactory over time. But I think when you adjust it for the effort that is put in, the lack of effort that's put in, basically zero effort to do this, and you adjust it for the fees, which round to zero now. When you adjust for all those things, it's a very appealing way to invest over time.
If I was to look at your balance sheet, what is your capital allocation strategy?
I'm trying to think of what, the percentage wise, it's probably something like 15 to 20% cash, the house that I live in, and then the rest index funds and shares of Markel, where I'm on the board of directors. And that's it. Those are my only assets: cash, house, index funds, Markel stock. That's it.
Which index funds?
Vanguard Total Stock Market Index, Vanguard Value Fund, and a little bit of an international fund.
Why do index funds work so well? Two
reasons. One is it's always going to be the case that a very small number of stocks account for the majority of returns. So recently it's been FANG plus NVIDIA. If you didn't own those stocks, FANG plus NVIDIA, over the last decade, your odds of outperforming are very, very low. It's not zero, but it's incredibly hard if you didn't own those few. And even if you look at an index fund that owns 1,000 stocks, let's say, you're going to get the majority of your returns from probably fewer than 20 of them. And it's always been like that. Back in the 90s, it was AOL and Cisco and Microsoft and Dell and those kind of companies. In a previous generation, it was General Electric and Intel and those kind of companies. It's always the case that it's very tail-driven, the distribution of returns. And owning the index just guarantees that whatever is going to be the next driver, I own. Because it's extremely difficult to know what those are going to be. If you had gone back to 2004, 20 years ago, and tried to predict what are the big winners going to be over the next 20 years, well, by the way, some of those companies didn't even exist yet. Facebook didn't even exist yet. Google was still a private company, or maybe it had just gone public in 2004. The big winners are, I think, extremely difficult to know with any foresight what it's going to be. And if you had suggested even 3 years ago that NVIDIA was going to be one of them, you would have been like, what? They make it would have sounded absurd. So you're guaranteeing that you're going to own the oddballs that account for the majority of the returns over time. The other is, I think, the lack of effort that goes into it that is needed. Investing is one of the very few endeavors in life where the harder you try, the worse you're probably going to do. And yes, there are exceptions to that. Renaissance technologies, of course, you can name the exceptions for people who tried very hard and did very well. But for the vast majority of people, there's going to be a negative correlation between the effort you put into it and the results that you got out of it. And so the leave it alone aspect of investing in index funds is very important. One little stat that I love about this is that if you look at both the Dow and the S&P 500, those are not static indexes. They change over time.